Welcome back to Total Focus Podcast. I'm your host, Paul. Our sponsor of the week is Mid-Atlantic Video and Photography Productions. No matter if you need photos or video, they are the team to get the job done. So if you need photos for a professional headshot, wedding, or a pageant, they can get the photo job done. Or if you need a commercial or wedding videography, they are the videographer to get the job done. So no matter if you need photos or video, reach out to Mid-Atlantic Video and Photography Productions for your next photography or videography production. Our special guest this week is the current sitting, reigning Miss America 2020. Camille Schreiber is on the show. Thank you so much, Camille, for coming on my show. It is such an honor to have a sitting national title holder grace us with the interview on our podcast here at the Total Focus. It is an absolute honor, and I am so absolutely flabbergasted and honored to have the opportunity to interview you while you're still Miss America, and I'm just so excited, and hope all of my audience stays tuned for this incredible interview. And welcome to the show.
Hi, Paul. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No, Camille, I'm really honored. I've been striving to finally get Miss America to recognize my pageant photography, videography, and pageant podcast from a national level. So this is a real honor that I have the current title holder on my show, and this is a huge accomplishment, and I appreciate you so much coming on my show and letting us tell your story. And it's such a unique year. You're officially the longest reigning Miss America, so there's so many cool things to talk about, and then your science background. So I'm just really thrilled that we have so much to talk about, and you're willing to come on the show.
Absolutely. Let's get started. I'd love to share with you.
Yeah. So I first came to learn a lot about you when you got the opportunity to be on Ellen, which I thought was so cool. Is there any story behind how that came about? Did she just happen to see your state performance? Is that how that came about? And then she invited you on the show?
I think, are you talking about the Kelly Clarkson show?
Okay. I thought it was Ellen. Okay, so it was Kelly Clarkson. Okay, I apologize.
It was. You're totally fine. I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page.
No.
I think that came about, right after my state competition, where a producer had seen what I had done at my state in terms of the science demonstration, and then had reached out to the PR team for Miss Virginia. And they kind of came to me and they were like, hey, we got this request for you to be on the Kelly Clarkson show. Do you want to do this? And I'm like, sure. So it was really cool how that came about. And I think that, I was really lucky after I won my state that I had a lot of interest from just the media in general to cover the story, because it was so interesting to a lot of people. And so that made its way down to California, and the producers from Kelly Clarkson saw it and they called me. So, it's a testament to doing something differently, and then having a lot of people want to continue to have eyes on that. And so it was a really cool experience. Got to fly out there. I was on with Jessica Alba and Kelsey Ballerini, and got to actually not only be a guest, but do a demonstration on the show. And I will say I was actually really nervous when I did that, because I had just gotten into the world of doing these science demonstrations. I was kind of new to science entertainment. And it was the first time I had ever done the demonstration that I did on that show, was literally when it was being recorded. And you can actually watch my face kind of make a little face when I'm about to start the reaction. And I was like, please don't blow up in my face. And it kind of did, but it was okay. Definitely it's funny to hear the stories behind that, because I was very nervous, but I think it came out okay when I watch it back, but I still see so many things I could have done differently.
It's always crazy how people expression is the feelings of their selves on television, or their emotions, because you look at it in this one pane and you only see it but so you gave so much context to it from the other side. That was
Hmm.
so interesting on the um to me that was when you became like one of the top candidates. I don't
Oh,
know.
thank you.
I don't know if you got that impression, but that was when I was like, well, clearly she's a top candidate. Like that's like I mean, being in the Mid-Atlantic area, I'm
Yeah.
like I think Miss Virginia is going to do well. Like
Well, thank you.
yeah. And then it was really fascinated by your whole background that like
Hmm.
the reason why you're doing this is to better yourself when it comes to schooling and
Hmm.
the whole. So I guess let's rewind it as I always say to my audience, and let's start from the beginning. So you're not traditionally a pageant girl, is that correct?
Hmm.
And your whole point thing is school, right?
Yeah,
So
I mean, I will say I definitely did pageants as a teenager. So, I mean, it's not like I hadn't competed in my life before. I did some other organizations like National American Miss and the USA Ambassador System, which were just smaller organizations. Well, actually, National American Miss is pretty large. And I competed for Miss High School America when I was in high school. And I liked those just because, first of all, they didn't have swimsuit, which was something that I was not super interested in. But they gave me the opportunity to learn public speaking, and I just never thought I would continue doing them after I got into college. And then I ended up in grad school and saw an advertisement to do a local competition to go to Miss Virginia. And I was like, you know what? I've always kind of wanted to do Miss America, but the swimsuit had been a barrier for me. And then it was gone at that point. And so I'm like, what do I really have to lose in trying this? I just have to figure out how to accurately represent, a performing talent because I don't have one of the traditional singing, dancing, baton twirling, instrumental talents that other women do. And so I just kind of went for it. And so it was not really like in my long term plans, but it became a great way to supplement um, the academics that I am so passionate about. But I think it's so important for all of us to be well rounded and to have these other experiences to supplement the formal education is just, something that you really can't get in a lot of other ways. And so I feel really grateful that I've had all of these experiential learning situations throughout my time. And it'll make me a very different student going back to school.
are you dreading to just go back to normality, or does COVID make it feel that you've already kind of been in that normality? Because typical Miss America year is that you're
Hmm.
literally traveling and going to places, and
Yeah.
I assume with your COVID setup that we were talking about, all you're kind of living in a cocoon with your setup there in your office or bedroom where you're doing your interviews.
Yeah, it's actually funny. And I think that I'm a definite believer that, we end up in certain situations for the right reason. Um, I actually kind of like the way that I've had my last year go because I, the travel, being Miss America was something that kind of scared me, and being on the road all of the time. I don't think that that was something that would have been really sustainable for me. But once I won, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to have to deal with this for a year because that's what I've gotten myself into. And of course, it's fun, but it can be really overwhelming. And so when we switched to me being COVID Miss America and being virtual, I actually felt like I was able to have a better quality of life where I could, kind of maintain some balance between a normal schedule, but still being Miss America and doing outreach. I will say it was a bummer to not be with people because I love being with people and really getting to spend time with the people that I get to meet at events. And you can't really do that on Zoom. You can be with 100 people on Zoom, but you never get that chance to just like have a conversation with that one person that you meet while getting a coffee at the coffee bar or something. And those kind of smaller interactions I do miss. But I will say I'm really excited to go back to school. Um, it's being Miss America is an overwhelming role in so many ways, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to now kind of go back into being Camille, um, and then take all of the amazing experiences and things that I've learned throughout this year and be able to then go and apply them in my own personal and professional life. So I'm really looking forward to going back and being a student again, actually. And I have 3 more years left, so still lots of time
Three
until I
more
get to my
years?
yeah. Because
Wow. Oh my God.
I'm in a doctoral program,
Well,
so I
wow.
yeah.
Wow. Hey, that's like for our listeners out there, like that takes a lot of, it just shows how smart you are. Like, really? So
Thank you.
what field of medicine are you going into?
So I'm a doctor of pharmacy student. So
Okay,
I will
cool.
be a Pharm D when I'm done. So it's a professional doctorate, much like an MD, or if you got your, um, if you were a dentist and you went to dental school
Hmm.
or physical therapy school. So I will have a professional doctorate. And ironically, I actually don't want to. This is kind of on brand for me. I never really do anything the normal way. I want to work in the pharmaceutical industry. I don't necessarily
Okay.
want to work as a pharmacist behind a counter. And it's interesting because, my social impact initiative is so based upon medication safety and abuse prevention. And I've learned so much about how pharmaceutical products affect people and their lives. So I feel like I'll have a really great perspective walking into a company when I do finally get a career position that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't done the job as both Miss Virginia and Miss America. So that's a few years down the road for me, but I'm really excited to be able to get there soon.
Well, I dated someone that went directly into the field that you're currently studying, so I know how extremely stressful. I mean, she
Oh,
lost
yes.
hair in the process, so
For sure.
um, like I know it's fulfilling, but it's extremely so. I'm fully. I know you can do this. So
Thank
it's
you.
just hard. I guess a follow up question when it comes to how things started.
Hmm.
Um, I guess they portrayed you on television as a newbie, but you just filled us in that you kind of had a little
Yeah.
bit of pageant. So and TV always does that. That
Yeah.
they portray the narrative that's best for the TV audience. Is there other things that you did? Were you an athlete? Were you playing an
Hmm.
instrument? Were you in cheerleading? Like, what
Hmm.
else rounded you out that
Yeah.
for our listeners out there that want to have your same role, they want to win Miss America, what are
Yeah.
some key things that rounded you out?
I think it's really important what you just said is that TV portrays you in a certain way that like the producers want. And it was really interesting because that's become one of the most common misperceptions is that I never competed before. But what the reality was is that I had never competed in the Miss America organization before. I was very new to MAO in general, but it wasn't like my first rodeo in competing on stage. Um, and so that's really funny. And I think that that's important for a lot of listeners to know is that like when you watch a competition on TV, like the girl doesn't always get the opportunity to pick and choose what information gets shared on that platform. And so there's so many things. I got portrayed as like the science girl, and I do so much more than that. Which I'm totally fine being the science girl. Let me also just preface that I like being the science girl.
Well, if
But
this is your audience, this is your
yeah,
opportunity to tell your story. So is there
absolutely.
some, yeah, please give us some more insight of who you are.
I mean, the funny thing is like I did grow up completely doing sports in school. I was, a dedicated person in terms of my academics, but I was a three-sport varsity athlete. I did field hockey, swimming, and track and field my entire time in high school and grew up riding horses, and I was a show jumper, did
Oh,
equestrian
you did. Oh,
sports.
you did question it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I did that for
I
a
can
long
see you
time.
doing field hockey. And I could
Yeah.
totally see you doing track because you're so
Yeah.
tall. So, what
I'm
was
actually
your
not tall. That's funny.
okay? Well, okay. I apologize for
It's okay.
assuming it, because the lens camera does portray people. It stretches your body out. So,
I think it's funny that you think I'm tall because I'm actually 5'4", and so I'm really
oh,
short in comparison to a lot of other girls.
we
And
just don't.
but I will say I wear really tall heels a lot to make myself look taller, but I'm not.
I do have to say that the last time I saw you walk was on stage,
Yeah.
and that you didn't have to stand next to anyone that would make you look short. So
Yes.
fair enough.
I I fooled you all. It's the magic of the shoes. But
Are you
It is funny
are
because
you 6? Are you a 6 inch or 8? Or I mean, are you
I
are?
don't know. I wear the tippy tops,
Yeah,
which
of
a lot of
course. You're
girls
right. Right.
wear. So I don't know how tall those really are.
I guess they're 6.
But
Because I
I
think
think they're very tall. I mean, they're hard to walk in. And
uh,
honestly,
they look hard.
I'm kind of a mess when it comes to that. But it was interesting because we didn't really have to walk in them, which was, I have my own opinions about that. I kind of wish that we did have an opportunity to walk in our gowns. But that's a whole other piece. Um, but
Are you
they're
saying
hard to
you're a
walk.
traditionalist?
I think I'm a traditionalist in some way, but obviously I'm not a traditionalist in a lot of ways.
Right. You
Um,
expressed the bikini thing, so
yeah,
that's
and
one where you said that's passe, which
and
that's
let me
fine. That's
also
fine.
I'll also say with the swimsuit piece, I think a lot of people that's another common misperception is that first of all, I've had people ask me like what I wear to the beach because they assume I don't ever wear a swimsuit. And that's like completely not true. I just wanted it was a personal choice for me that I did not want to wear a swimsuit as part of the competition. And so the thing for me is like if a girl wants to wear a swimsuit and compete for Miss America and or go to Miss USA and wear a swimsuit, like I will cheer her on the entire way. Like it is just something that I didn't think was a healthy decision for me. But I capitalized on the opportunity in the fact that it went away, and so I felt like it was a healthy decision that I could make to compete
Exactly.
without a swimsuit. So let me just also say, like, girls who wear swimsuits in competition, you go, girl. Like, you do it. I'll be there. I'll clap in the back, but I just don't want to do it myself. So, that
Right.
was
And
kind of thing
if
for me.
it works within what your beliefs are, then that, you know. And
Yeah.
I I totally agree that the competition based bikini thing is kind of weird, especially now and totally. But like, if you want to go to the beach and wear a bikini,
Mhm.
I shouldn't. It's crazy. You must be being questioned that like you would do that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
why?
Why wouldn't I?
It's so fascinating that like who cares if you want wear a one piece or you wear a bikini?
Mhm.
You're gonna wear a bathing suit. You're gonna wear a
Yeah.
bathing suit. So that should be the question. Of course, you're gonna wear a bathing suit. If you go to the
Yeah.
beach, you're gonna go swimming, like, or you're gonna lay out on the
Yeah.
beach.
My take on the swimsuit thing, especially in competition, is that especially for Miss America, when you are signing up to win a scholarship for your education, that there was something that didn't really fit for me in wearing a swimsuit to earn scholarship money, and in the other way, I feel like women are judged upon their body and their physical appearance in so many ways in our society. Like I'm sure I'm judged on my physical appearance every single day. Um, and I wanted there to be an opportunity where I could just be judged on exactly what I could offer in terms of my experience and my skill set rather than my body. And so that was something that was part of the reason why I liked the way that the competition was structured without the swimsuit. But if a woman wanted to be judged upon her body, then she has every right to. But I thought it was really refreshing that we didn't have the focus on, just what our physical bodies looked like, but got the opportunity to speak more and talk about what we were going to do and what our experiences were. That was something that I really was excited
I mean, Camille, that's clearly why you won because they,
about.
you were preaching like just being equal. You know,
Yeah.
I I mean, and clearly you can't. It's like the perfect mesh. They bend it to your will and
Hmm.
your ideals fit right into that perfect mesh.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a better scenario for you. Everything aligned
Thank you.
exactly what you want.
I definitely feel like when I look back and, I said this before, but I'm a believer that things happen in the right timing. Um,
Absolutely, God gives
that
you
I,
only what you can handle for sure.
exactly. And I think that, there was a reason why I ended up doing this job this year that maybe I didn't even realize at the beginning. Um, and I feel grateful to have that opportunity. And I do feel like, in every sense, I didn't have to like and I do not mean to suggest that anyone meant to pretend, but I like very authentically came in there like I totally know what I am here for, and like I feel good about this kind of a competition and the way that it's structured right now. And I think that that was one of the benefits in being really new, was that I hadn't had a lot of experience with the way that the competition had been before, because I think, and I felt bad for the women who felt kind of a little bit disappointed because the experience wasn't what they had always dreamed of. And I can imagine that that would be really difficult if you had competed for many, many years and worked up to this point where you had an idea in your mind of what your Miss America experience would be like. And then that was very different from what you'd expected. But that wasn't something that I faced because I hadn't really ever had that dream in my mind or really ever thought that I would do that. So, again, I think that that kind of goes along with maybe why I ended up doing this job this year. And then I ended up being the COVID Miss America. So that was a whole other piece of like unexpected kind of timing and experiences in this. And again, I didn't have any perception of what my year as Miss America would look like because I never thought I would have that year.
I just wanted to take 1 second from this great interview and talk about our sponsor of the week, Mid-Atlantic Video and Photography Productions. No matter if you're planning a wedding, a special event, or you just need an amazing headshot, they are the team to get the job done. You can reach out to them at 443-422-3830. Again, that's 443-422-3830. Or you can just go right to their website at mavpp.com. Now let's get right back to the show and listen to this great interview. So, Camille, the playing sports and being an equestrian, is that the right term?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that gave you a nice bridge between your very analytical brain and then your social brain? Do you think that's what gave you good balance and allowed you to be really good on stage? And like, is there any way you break that down for someone who's young that wants to do a pageant? Like, do you think that those are some of the key things that made you who you are, that put you in the right motion to win that title?
No, I think more so. I don't think it was necessarily the sports as much. I mean, I almost feel like doing the few pageants I did as a young person were what helped me have more confidence in speaking and presenting myself. Um, and those were great gateways to becoming Miss America when I'd never even thought that that was going to be a possibility for me. And also just the academics and understanding how to present in front of a group, how to communicate and present present your skill sets in an effective way. And I'm kind of spitballing here, but also like having internships in college, knowing how to work in a corporate environment, knowing how to interview for a real job and how to sell yourself as a potential employee. I think those were things even more than being in sports that helped me be prepared and really get to that situation where I could effectively show why I could be a great Miss America. And so, being well-rounded is the number one thing. You have to be well-rounded to be able to be successful in any piece of life.
I guess big picture here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever look at legacy at this point? Because you're almost at your end of your reign, which is crazy because at this point you would have already passed on your reign a long time ago. You're still waiting to do that. Like, what's your concept? Like, I mean, clearly you've definitely left the organization a better place. You're representing the organization phenomenally. I think everyone would say that you've done a great job in the situation of basically building a studio and being there to represent the organization and all the little key components. So for technically the 100th Miss America, you've done a great job, and we all know that it's been a rocky So for so I guess my sum up my question. Have you thought about your legacy? Like, I mean, this is only one year, very young. So, like, I assume that your legacy should also
Yeah.
include your future. But at this point,
Yeah.
where you are right now,
I think that looking back, and quite honestly, I'm not even serving really as full time Miss America anymore. Um, I'll be there to be part of the 100th anniversary celebration, but my full time role has kind of come to an end. Um, I I think that as I look back on what I've gotten to do as Miss America 2020, I hope that my legacy is that you can that Miss America doesn't have to fit in a box, and that you can be exactly who you are, and you can still be Miss America, even if you are not the traditional perception of Miss America, which is kind of the way that I went into it. I think I have traditional aspects that make me a lot like some other Forever Miss Americas, but having kind of a new spin on it that makes it very much uniquely mine. And so I hope that other young women across the country who maybe don't feel like they can relate to a lot of Forever Miss Americas still feel like they can be included, and that they can be, that they have the opportunity and potential to be a Miss America.
unlike your counterpart systems, Miss America 100% relies on their past title holders to be a part of the system, and you even get a legacy sash, if from what I recall. Are you excited for that? Are you excited to play that role, come back and do the autograph session? Or is that something you're so excited to do? Do you need a little bit of time to decompress, or are you excited to just be a part of
Yeah.
the organization in that capacity?
It's interesting. I never really thought of, Forever Miss America as being like more involved than maybe like Forever Miss USA's, or other larger organizations that have, title holders that continue on after their time. Um, I think that, me looking back, and my potential involvement in the future, it's a very unique sisterhood to be a part of, because there's only 94 other, or I guess I'm the 94th. There's only 93 other women who have ever done this job, um, and about half of those are still with us, and
Which is great. That's
which
a
is amazing. And I think that one of the biggest things that I look forward to in the future is being able to continue to hear the stories from other Forevers. I especially got to meet Lee Merriweather, which was just wonderful. And got to hear about their experiences, and how maybe being Miss America in 1955 had similarities but many differences to what I do now in 2020. Um, that has been one of the most rewarding pieces. But of course, I'll always, look at every competition, and welcome that next young woman into a really amazing group of women across the country who have had this very, very unique experience, that only a few of us can really fully understand.
I mean, it's not even comparison to say the Super Bowl line, because there's way more people that go to the Super Bowl. But like I'm trying to think of some. I guess less people have won gold medals for the United States in figure skating than, and you're in that category. Uh, it's such a rare feat. So I mean
Yeah.
that's uh is that hard for you and like, are you come to grips with that? You've like, wow, okay, cool, I'm in this club.
Yeah, I think it's hard to like really picture for me now, because um I see it as like a role that I've gotten to do this year, and I haven't really had the opportunity to be around a lot of Forever Miss Americas and really feel like I get to be part of that. I think in my mind I know that I am, but I haven't really gotten that chance to be like, wow, this is really crazy that I get to do this. And I think that hopefully I'll feel that, especially at the next competition, the 100th anniversary, where I'm hoping that some other Forevers will be able to be there, and celebrate with us. That will be something that will be really special for me.
I mean, I pray that I pray. I mean, if everything goes their way, they're saying that we're gonna have enough vaccines in May. So let's hope that moves the bar. So, and are you still living in Virginia right now? Is that where you're hunkered down?
Yes, I had been in Pennsylvania with my family
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
throughout 2020, and so at the beginning of 2021, I decided to come back to Richmond, Virginia, and that's where I'm spending 2021, and that's where I go to grad school as well. So I'll be here when I start school again.
Oh, well, that's exciting. And what school are you attending in Richmond?
I'm at Virginia Commonwealth
Oh,
University
yeah,
School of
Commonwealth.
Pharmacy.
Oh, cool.
So I go to school at the hospital, and so I live a
Oh,
little bit outside of the city, and then I drive in to the hospital every day and go to school, and then come back to my little house, which I like so much.
do you have like a little colonial or
I live in a beautiful apartment
you have an
complex
apartment complex?
outside of the
Gotcha.
city with my dog and my 2 cats, so it's a little zoo in here.
Yeah, for our listeners, Richmond's a really beautiful, very southern community. So it's such a beautiful little community. It's a very busy community to live in, but it's a um. So I always get the technical term of your demonstration wrong. So what's the name of your demonstration? What's the
Yeah.
what's that? I know it's something.
Hydrogen peroxide is what you're thinking of.
Yes, but what's the
So
other word they call it? Like gum? That's not gum.
it's elephant's toothpaste.
Elephant's toothpaste. Okay, cool. Okay,
That's the common name, but
yes.
the actual reaction is called the catalytic decomposition of hydrogen peroxide.
Okay.
Which that's why they call it elephant's toothpaste, because it's very difficult to say. And it's interesting when I think about like developing that as my talent. If you look back at the photos of when I did that at my local competition back in 2019, I did it on such a small scale, and I literally used about, I think, 100th of the volumes of the solutions that I actually used on stage at Miss America. It was tiny because I was just kind of learning how to, use science as a piece of entertainment, and that's been, a talent that I've, really been able to hone throughout this process. But more than anything, I think that the talent of what I do is communication, similar to women that are doing monologues and really being able to capture an audience with their voice. And when we think about, radio hosts, TV hosts, being able to be that person that can keep attention and provide information with their voice, that's been one of the greatest talents that I'm able to express through what I do. But also, it gave me an extra 90 seconds to show a little bit more about who I was and my passion for science education. It's been such a cool and fun opportunity to bring that around to kids, and especially virtually, because when COVID happened, I was able to do a lot of science education and demonstrations through my computer. So I did this whole series with PBS here in Central Virginia called Cooking Up Science with Miss America, where I
Really?
filmed a science TV show in my kitchen.
Why didn't they show that nationally? That would have been a great PBS. Like
It was just specifically contracted with the local PBS,
I
so
know, but that's
hopefully,
a
or maybe
great
one day,
that's a
maybe one
great
day.
idea. I love that idea.
It
Virginia's
was
PBS is so smart to team up with you. That I love that.
it was one of the most fun things I got to do, but it was a ton of work because I wrote the shows.
It's TV.
Um,
Everything.
and I
People
and
don't understand how hard TV is. TV is
yes,
like the hardest thing in the world.
I and again, as a person who had always been a student, I just never really had a lot of exposure into like television production, that type of thing. So I very much was very rudimentary in the beginning of how I learned how to shoot footage. And then my expertise really advanced throughout the process. I got a better camera. I understood lighting a little bit more, but I was also writing the episodes and working with the Department of Education here in Virginia to have them meet certain educational standards. And so that's a really cool thing about, even that COVID, changed what I got to do as Miss America. I got experience in those types of things that I would have never had if I was just on the road traveling. I wouldn't have been able to shoot my own TV show while I'm in hotels on the road. I mean, I could
That
have, but the likelihood of doing that was very low.
I mean, you're right. I mean, like that That's a phenomenal opportunity.
It was it was a huge learning experience, but I had so much fun with it, and it still exists. Like you can access it online.
Oh, cool. Okay.
If you Google "Cooking Up Science with Miss America," it will come right up. It's from PBS VPM here in Central Virginia.
All right, guys. In
Um,
the by long by in the in the information below on this episode, I'll have that link along with Camille's information too in her bio. So I'll just look at the link below, and you can watch those episodes, and I'll definitely have that there listed there for you, Camille.
Thank you. It was so fun, and it's cool because it's science that you can do in your home with products that you probably already have, which I was doing specifically during COVID because people weren't really able to, they didn't want to go out any more than they needed to. It wasn't the right time to go and get supplies to do science demonstrations. So instead, I was doing stuff with things that were already in my kitchen cabinet and being able to share how, part of my demonstration, and I don't know if you remember this part, is at the very end, I kind of stick my arms out and I say, science really is all around us. And that's been something that I've tried to continue throughout my time in showing how science is part of everything we do every day, whether or not we are literally baking cookies in our kitchen or if we're in a laboratory discovering a new COVID vaccine, that science is part of everything. And that's the cool thing that I get to bring into schools with kids. And so, like, literally one of the episodes, I bake cookies and I talk about the science of baking and cooking. And
That's a
those are all,
perfect. Yeah, that's a great because there's a reaction that
yeah.
causes it to actually puff up, and it's a great. Yeah.
Yes. So many. And those were the reasons why when I was a little girl that I loved science, because I got to do all of those things, but the people around me were there to remind me that those were based in science. And that was just something that I felt like if I had the opportunity to talk to, not just little girls, but boys across the country, just to make science relevant to them, because it can be a really scary topic for some kids.
Making science cool is so important.
Yeah.
It's
And
so important.
it's been such a blessing to be able to do it because and this sounds really cheesy, but like when I get to be with a bunch of kids and I get to do a reaction in front of them or do a demonstration and I get to see their eyes light up and they want to know more about what I did or how I got to do what I do, or they ask me about different science things that they're curious about. Those are the moments where I get so excited and it's so motivating for me to continue talking about that with kids. And really, honestly, adults are really into it too because they think it's entertaining for them. I
Well,
literally did a keynote speech at a conference, like a breakfast conference at a science center. And I was the keynote speaker, and in the middle of my speech, I went over and did the demonstration and then continued speaking. So it became like an eye-catching visual, but also related to science, which has just been so cool to see all of the different ways that, what started as a way to solve a problem to be able to compete in a competition that had a talent portion, all of the ways that this demonstration had become applicable in the rest of my time as Miss America and will continue as I continue my career has just been so unexpected and really awesome.
I know your drive is to work in the pharmaceutical business, but like
Mhm.
I if you have any opportunity to be the next Mr. Wizard or Bill Nye the Science Guy, I think it would be
Yeah.
so important to see a woman portray a
Yeah.
cool science person. I know that you've done that, but if you ever get opportunity to do it on a national level, I would highly recommend you to
Thank you.
please consider it because my generation, I assume that even Bill Nye the Science Guy is too old for you because I'm.
No,
Oh, okay. So you do
I
remember
grew up
Bill?
watching him. I
Okay,
grew up
okay,
watching him.
okay. Because I still remember. I don't even know if you know Mr. Wizard, but
I do.
okay, okay, good, good. Okay,
I
all
do.
right.
I know them both.
Okay, okay. Because I mean, I'm 38. So I don't want to. I think there's a 10-year gap. You're in your late 20s.
Yep.
Okay.
Late
So I
20s.
I I don't I don't want to assume that you know.
No, you're right.
Okay. And I think it's so important to portray science so cool. And that's what I think Mr. Wizard did, and I think
Yes.
that's what Bill Nye the Science Guy. I think that's what Bill does to this day,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate what you've done from that perspective for women, because there
Thank you.
really hasn't been that opportunity for women to show that women can be really cool, intelligent science,
Yeah.
and we don't have that person right now on national television.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
Bill's
that
off there on YouTube and being in politics, but he's not got that television platform anymore.
the one thing I will say, Paul, is that what's interesting is we've come a long way in having equality in women in STEM in the workforce. Where the numbers are getting a lot better in terms of actual women getting jobs in STEM careers and wanting to enter them. One of the things that I've started to realize as I've been in this space is that even though we've kind of have more women going into these careers and being accepted as a woman, there's this strange idea that women in STEM aren't feminine. And that's been something that I've loved to disprove, because that's not true. And sometimes in science, in really heavily science corporate situations, if you're a woman in STEM and you are stylish and you're into fashion, if you like makeup, if you want to get your nails done, if you want to do those traditionally feminine things,
Yes, yes.
you're kind of looked at like, oh, are you really a scientist? Or do you really have a STEM background? And
You are so right. Uh,
that's been one of the things that, even more than just getting little girls to want to go into STEM, disproving that women in STEM are boring, typically masculine, non feminine women has been one of the more important things that I've gotten to do to kind of remind people, both men and women in general, that for men, that you can be, that any woman that walks into your company that happens to be a feminine woman, don't assume that she's not a woman of STEM. And
well,
conversely,
have you seen the new Wonder
yeah,
Woman movie this year?
no, but I've heard about it and I need to watch
Okay,
it.
God, I'm so sorry I pronounced her name wrong, but she is a former Miss Israel, and she's she's playing a scientist in this new second reboot of Wonder Woman in this episode movie,
Amazing.
and she's absolutely gorgeous. But of course, they have this typical, you know, dorky scientist that's next to her, and then she only becomes like strong and sexy because her powers are transferred from. So it's
Interesting.
so I they made one huge leap, giving Wonder Woman this really strong and beautiful, confident, sexy
Yeah.
scientist role, but then they had to have the typical, like you're
Yeah.
saying. So like one step forward, one step back,
Yeah.
or
And
one step
honestly,
nowhere. But I
there's progress, but we definitely have more progress to make. Because the other thing is, if you're a girl looking to go into a science career and you are someone that is, a feminine woman, maybe you feel like you're not going to fit in that career role if that's been traditionally portrayed to you as something that's the opposite. Um, so that's part of the reason why I literally wear pink bedazzled safety goggles when I do stuff,
and I
because
appreciate you doing that. You know.
it's more so than just for my personal protection, but just to be like, hey, look, I can do science and I understand the science behind what I'm doing, but I also want you to see that I wear pink and sparkles, which is very strategic in a way that's more like, a lot of what I do in depth has a lot of strategic pieces behind it for certain reasons, like the pink, like my bedazzled lab coat, and there's lots of different things that are very intentional in what I do.
So I wanted to talk to you specifically about the elephant toothpaste, but we went on a good tangent. So I appreciate.
Yes,
And
sorry.
no. I've learned by doing this podcast. I'm almost up to my 100th episode that I got to stop interrupting and just let when I have an incredible guest like you, I just need to shut up and let you talk. So I hope I've done a good job of that, because I'm trying not to interrupt you. So going back to
You're
the
great.
elephant. So the reason I wanted to bring up elephant toothpaste, I don't know if you acknowledged, like, you have been paying attention, but have you seen the overwhelming craziness when it comes to the the fandom of the elephant toothpaste? David Dobrik does it. I'm trying to think of the other YouTuber that was part of NASA. Like there's
Yes.
this huge now elephant toothpaste craze. Uh,
Yeah.
David Dobrik did one experience so big that he had them floating from his house. Like I, you were clearly on the leading of that. So
Hmm.
you are 100% in that, like in that bubble of influence. Uh, so I think that's so cool. You definitely
Thank you.
started a trend. I don't know what your opinion is on that. Um, did you have
I don't
any?
think I don't think I started it. I think
No.
it was already there.
But you
um,
definitely had like a good motivation because it was brought back into
yeah.
the forum. The front of
Yeah.
people's minds.
I chose it because I saw other people do it. And so I feel like it's one of the things that it's one of the demonstrations of all of the like traditional like fun science demonstrations that was it could that I could make it visual enough and large enough, kind of like what you're speaking of, that David Dobrik one. I had seen that online and they do it so large because it's a reaction that the more that you use, the larger it is. And so when you're trying to plan a demonstration to do on a stage in almost an arena stadium environment, you have to have it big enough that everyone can see it or else it's boring. And that's part of the reason why a lot of science entertainers use it. And that was exactly why I used it, because I could make my solutions, I could have them with me, I could bring them, and I knew that it was going to do the same thing every time. And I knew that I could make it really large, colorful, and visual. And that's the cool thing about it. And so I definitely don't think I started the trend. I actually think that some of the other science entertainers, and you mentioned Mr. Wizard, one of the science entertainers that I work with, named Steve Spangler, worked with Mr. Wizard previously, I'm pretty sure, to kind of learn the tricks of the trade. But he is one of the ones, he did this on Ellen. He's done like these huge demonstrations. And so it's a very popular demo. And I totally understand why, because it's great.
Well, I mean, it's perfect for a talent for Miss America because it's a controlled uh, system where you know that you're going to get a consistent outcome every single time, and
Hmm.
then you get an opportunity, and it's quick, so it gives you enough lead time that you can then sum up your your theory, and then make a good statement, which is so important when it comes to Miss America. If you're gonna You need to be able to sum up that. If you're going to do a science um, project on stage, you have to be able to do it quickly and then be able to summarize it and then explain it to the judges. So,
Exactly. So true.
yeah. I just wanted to take one extra second and talk about our sponsor of the week, Mid Atlantic Video and Photography Production. No matter if you're planning a wedding and you need a wedding videographer, you're doing a music video, or you're doing a commercial, they are the team to get the job done. You can reach out to them at 443 422 3830. Again, that's 443 422 3830. Or you can go right to their website at mavpp.com. Now let's get right back to this great interview. So I guess just to round out your year,
Hmm.
how would you sum up? You said going into it, after you got crowned, you were really concerned about the travel aspect, and
Yeah.
God came into and that experience you didn't have to happen, and you were able to really have a year that was really customized to you. You had a
Yeah.
competition that was totally like I the way you talked about it, it sounds like it was designed for you to win it. You just had to show up, like because your values are so important in life, and you didn't have to
Hmm.
compromise anything. Am I, am I not, am I wrong by saying that? Am I? That's
I
the
mean,
impression you're giving me.
I think that yes, in some ways, I would say that it was less about compromising my values in any way. Like just in terms of the swimsuit piece, I'm someone that has just faced a lot of body image issues, and had recovered from an eating disorder and didn't want to put myself in that. So it wasn't like I didn't. It wasn't like a value based thing of not wanting to do that. But
Oh, so
I felt,
that's the
yeah,
underlining thing.
that the thing for
Because
me is that
that was never brought up on the telecast. So that's
yeah.
okay.
And so
Oh,
that's why I chose to not compete in a swimsuit,
gotcha.
just because it wouldn't have been healthy for me in my recovery from that.
Wouldn't be healthy for
And
anyone.
well, I think it can be healthy for some people. Like I think that depending upon the way that you face, um, you know, putting yourself into a very high pressure situation in terms of your body and your figure, I think some women can do that in a really healthy way.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I don't.
Fair enough.
I just.
I'm not a
I just
woman, so
I just knew that that wasn't something that I could do in a healthy way without becoming obsessive over a lot of the pieces of that. But I felt like in terms of the competition, I could just be authentically myself and not have to like I could just do exactly who I was and I could be successful in that. And I
is that
think
your
that is
personality? Are you obsessive?
oh, I definitely I am, but I think that's part of what makes me successful in some ways is that I I fixate on things and I want to do things in a way that's really effective and optimize things. And so if I do that with my health, sometimes that can be a little over like a little too much. Um and so that's been something that I struggled with for a long time, but it's I think just understanding yourself as a person is really important in any type of realm. Um
Do you think
whether or
that's
not
what makes you do so well at school then? Because you
um
can obsess about getting that A or
well,
getting
that's another misperception I think is that I'm very focused on my academics, but I'm definitely not a straight A student.
oh.
Um,
Okay,
I
I maybe this is my assumption.
yeah.
I find you to be very credible. I just assume you're an A student. I mean,
Hey, I appreciate that, but you know what
you
the
come
funny thing
off that
about
way.
that?
You come off as an A student. Like you're
Thank you,
the way you talk,
thank you.
you don't. I I have a severe reading and writing disability, so sometimes I don't pronunciate my words properly. You don't. You sounds like that. Those aren't an issue for or a struggle for you. So I mean,
Hey, Paul, here's the thing that I want to say to you is that whether or not you have a disability or whether or not you don't, it's interesting because some people things just come easier to than others, and I have certain skills that I'm really good at, and I have other things that I struggle with, and I think that especially looking at school, one of the really common misperceptions in academics is that you have to be a 4.0 student to be successful. I've never been a 4.0 student. I literally got a D in a chemistry class in college and had to retake the class. And I almost that almost held me back from continuing into my degree program, and I thought about dropping my major. And I tell that story because we have this misperception in our communities that if you want to have a great career that you have to be perfect, and that's part of what I want to dispel in every aspect of life is because I am so not perfect. I i have to work really hard in school to be able to be successful. It does not come naturally to me, and I think that that's so important to talk to young people about, and really especially other women my own age and men who are like going through their careers and trying to figure out like, oh my gosh, well, I'm not like my sales aren't as great as my counterpart, or my grade isn't as great as someone else's. Well, what are you learning? What experiences do you have outside of this that are going to make you a better employee? Because honestly, at the end of the day, I might not have a 4.0, but I have a lot of experience of what I've gotten to do as Miss America and in my internships and my corporate experience that is going to make me a better employee, not because of my grades, but because of what I've gotten to do. And so that's really interesting that you brought that up too, because um, I think that we talked about like me kind of being a little bit obsessive. I think that being obsessive a little bit makes me a more organized student and gives me the chance to be a little bit more successful with less effort. But I still have to put a lot of effort and time, especially into my pharmacy education, because it's not easy. Um, but things that aren't easy are also things that can really help you down the road too. So that's my TED talk on not being a 4.0 student.
no. I think that you should do a whole topic on that if you ever
Yeah.
get an
Thank
opportunity.
you.
Even if you don't do it for TED Talk, I think you should just do that as a video, and I'd be
Thank
happy
you.
to produce it if you'd like to
Oh,
work.
you're so kind.
Yeah, because there's so many important things that we could learn from you, and as sad as it is, people only look up to people that they consider to be above them, or people that are considered to be a status symbol, or a superstar, and you're
Yeah.
going to be in that. Sorry,
Oh, you're
Camille,
so
you're going to
right.
be in this. No, I mean it's just, you won the lottery, so you're going to have that you know criteria. I mean,
Thank you.
to me, it seems like, I know that you have a passion for science, but you could honestly be a public speaker, and do uh, these large classes where you could go and
Hmm.
talk about motivating speaking and talking about
Uh-huh.
sales, because you know, my photography business is 100% a sales job.
Yes.
I can take a great photo. If I ever get the opportunity to work with you, I know I can take a great photo. That's not the problem. It's the sales job of,
Yep.
convincing you to believe in me and giving me your time, because your time is the most important thing. You don't ever get that back. So,
You are so right about that. And really, a lot of even just competing for Miss America is a sales job, because you are trying to sell yourself as the product and why they should pick you over every other person there. And understanding, understanding how to sell yourself as a potential employee is something that's important in every single aspect of, career development for young women and men, but especially when we think about prepare, like there's that whole motto that Miss America has of preparing great women for the world. Allowing women to understand how to effectively brand and sell their skill sets in a way that's not necessarily, not an arrogant way, but in a very confident, sure way of knowing what you can offer, is something that is really invaluable. And that's something I really feel like I've learned this year and learned through my process of competing at Miss America, and is something that you can't really get in a lot of other situations. And so it's been a really cool experience to learn how to do that.
well, Camille, I really appreciate it. It is such an honor to have a sitting. I know you have, your year has expired, but you haven't passed technically on television
Mhm.
yet. So, um,
Yes.
in my opinion, you're still the sitting. I know technically, I know there are all these rules and everything, but it is really an honor to me. You really have given me an opportunity to interview you, and I really appreciate your time, as I pointed out
Thank you.
earlier. So it means
I
so much to
appreciate
me.
it.
So
And I appreciate you having me on, and I'll always be Miss America 2020. And so
that's
whether
right,
that's
exactly.
2020, 2021, I just say, I'm Miss America 2020. And I'm really excited to be able to be there to be a part of the celebration whenever that happens.
Yeah, and I look forward to watching it on television. So, one last question:
Yes.
did you like the the Shark Tank kind of environment? Was that cool for you? Did you?
That's a big question.
Well, if it's
I
too big, we can totally.
no, no, I would say my jury's out on that. I'm going to be, again, I'm kind of a little analytical in the
It
way that
was
I look
it.
at the positives and negatives.
If I can just say
I
on my behalf,
Go ahead.
for
Sorry.
no, for television purposes, it looked like a cool way of setup. So,
It was cool. I think I liked it because I had the benefit of going all the way to the end with it. I liked that we got the opportunity to speak a lot during the telecast. It was difficult because I wish that more women could have been highlighted in that, but just based on TV time, that was not possible in the time that was there. But then my biggest criticism of it, and I think that I'm not alone in saying this, is that when, especially when we got to the top 5, when it became more of an elimination, I wish that the women, especially who were fourth, third, and second runners up, instead of feeling like they got eliminated, that they felt like they got celebrated. And I don't think that that was portrayed in a
oh, I
in
like that
as
idea
much of a
more.
celebratory way, because in traditional, when you get to the top 5 and there's the crowning, you're calling that fourth runner up and you're saying, congratulations, you won a scholarship of whatever, and you're going to get flowers and whatever and move aside. And then the next person gets more scholarship, and then they get their third runner up, and then you move on. And I felt like it was almost portrayed as more of like a, oh, I'm so sorry, you're not moving on. When it could have been like, oh my gosh, you just won $15,000 of scholarship money and you are the third runner up to Miss America, or however much you get when you win that.
Camille,
And
that
so
is an awesome way to portray it, and I think that's
yeah.
something that I really hope that you can have a say in, just in the board. You
Oh,
know, I hope you express that, because that's a great idea. I think that's
yeah. And I think that the other thing,
it's a
and just to
sales
be
job. Like, it's just the way you portray it. It's the way you sell
it
it on
is.
television.
I think the biggest thing also is, and this is again just a misperception, is, you know, a lot of it is production controlled. And if we want to stay on a network, a major network, as Miss America has been for a long time, sometimes it's production controlled, and that's something that's not necessarily chosen by the organization, or it's probably a combined decision. But I think a lot of that was driven by NBC, and I don't think for a bad way, because I think it made it partially more entertaining to watch in some ways. People will have their disagreements with that, but that's fine.
Everyone has
Um,
disagreements when
Everyone
it
has
comes.
their own say on that, but I
Uh,
think that if I had been in the situation where I didn't have such a wonderful celebratory moment at the end where I was presented with all these, flowers and crown or whatever, that if I had been that in one of those runners up positions, I think that those women could have had a little bit more recognition.
well, I appreciate you having so much compassion for that, because I've spoken to some pageant girls and they don't even think about their fellow fifth, sixth, So it just shows how much compassion you have.
Oh,
So
well,
it
thank
just,
you.
you know, um, and I think there's lots of room, but there's always room to improve everything. But
Yeah,
it's so important for you guys to have a national platform on television, and we need to have that show on television. We also need USA, the USA um, pageant to be on television too. It's very important that we have female programming, and we need to have those competitions on. So it's a you have to work within the system because the way it is, but it's so important. So I
for sure.
yeah. Well, I appreciate. I know this is a big thing. I threw it at you last minute, and I appreciate you giving me a summarize for that. And
You
I
are
was
quite all right.
the summarize. I really appreciate you coming on my show.
Absolutely. Thank you, Paul, for having me. Have a blessed day.
Camille, I I'm just so honored. I've worked really hard as a photographer to get opportunities to work with the current title holder, and to have you grace my podcast that I've put 2 years of hard work, and I'm almost reaching my 100th episode. It is 100% an honor to have you as a guest on my show. I 100% recognize how such a big, important milestone this is. That you thought that my show was so important, as well as so respectful that coming on my show was a good thing to do. And I feel that I just need to thank you so much for giving me credibility, and thank you so much for being so caring and understanding. There is a clear reason why you won. It was demonstrated in this interview. Highly intelligent, well speaker. You have your stance. You stand by it, and no one should judge you for that. And you have your flaws, but you make up for it in so many ways, like you said. And you're the best demonstration of what a modern woman is today, and I'm really proud that you represented our country for the last 16 months, and I'm so proud for you to have you on my show and to be a guest, and I'm just so thankful. To my lovely listeners out there, as I always say at the end of the show, thank you for liking and subscribing. As I always tell you, we have 2 shows here on the Total Focus. We have the Total Focus podcast, which you're listening to now. But then we also have our movie review show with my co-host Yvonne Carlos called The Movie Breakdown. So we talk about movies and we just have a good time. So please stay tuned and listen to our movie breakdown show. And as always, please stay